Okay.
Good. Oh, good. Scoot over a little bit.
A little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Cannot be more closer.
Hello, everybody. We'll get
Hello.
started in just a few minutes.
Excited.
Just testing some audio. Can you guys hear us? Cool. Sounds like
We have a echo back.
Great. So welcome to the IoTeX live stream with the IoTeX co-founders, Jing Sun and Ralan Chai.
Nice to meet you.
We appreciate you guys participating in the partnerships campaign, which allowed you to join this live stream today. So the format of this is we have some questions that we sourced from your applications, and we'll be starting with those questions. But if you have more questions, you can feel free to type them in the chat, and we will answer them throughout this hour. So just to get started, we wanted to start with some introductions about yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to keep this kind of as a casual conversation. So maybe start with Ralan. Tell us about your story and how you got here today.
Oh, I got here today because of Larry, right? And our awesome marketing team, like they just have this live streaming event for Jing and me. So we will be super excited to share like our knowledge, our recent progress with all you guys. Especially like our code launch, which has been happened 2 days ago, which is great. Yeah, I saw maybe people are asking questions about the epoch, I guess, but I will dive into more details about the epoch later.
Sounds good. Yeah, maybe just walk through some of your personal details, your work history, education history, life history.
Okay, sure. So yeah, so basically that's a story about how IoTeX got founded up, right? So basically, I got my PhD in Waterloo, doing mostly like a lightweight cryptography at that time. Like the idea is to embed it, to make this crypto primitives working on very small and weak devices, IoT devices. At that time, because we were doing crypto research, like this Bitcoin paper come out in 2009, so we just like entire group just was so passionate and looking into the Bitcoin paper, and also did some like a mining and just poking around, thinking around stuff, which is like how I got into this blockchain thing. And after graduation, I didn't join blockchain world immediately. Rather, I went to Google and stayed like 4 years in Google, mostly working on security and infrastructure projects, which is good, right? Which basically just gave me the knowledge about these distributed systems, about like how this real engineering system works in a very large scale. So I spent like 4 happy years at Google. Then I moved to Uber because Uber gave me a bigger role, basically to lead like the research team of the cryptography, which is good. Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing actually.
Oh,
yeah. I spent 1 year there, and then I just can't wait, right? And also at that time, I met Jing and John, another co-founder. He's not here today. And we were like have lots of conversations about like how we can do something meaningful in the IoT and blockchain space. So that's how this company got founded last year. So we started like a planning around February-ish, right? And then we founded the company around August, July-ish.
That's great. So
that's how we are here.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So
it's an amazing journey.
Yeah, for sure. So for our viewers, Ralan is obviously a very academic person, but also has the industry experience in infrastructure and security. Dong, who's not with us today, he's actually in China on business. He's more of the product guy. He worked at Facebook for about 7 years, joined in 2011, so saw the entire rise of the company and built several products throughout that. And I'll let Jing describe her expertise.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jing. I'm also one of the co-founders in IoTeX. And my role will be leading, how to build up the ecosystem for IoTeX. And also I'm leading the investor relationship and also work with our marketing team, community to building up a really, solid community. Yeah. So maybe some background of myself. I'm coming from the VC world. So I'm a venture capitalist and investing in Silicon Valley, those frontier tech companies for over 6 years. And my particular focus will be invest in cybersecurity, IoT, and AI company. Actually, we start to look at the blockchain space early 2016. At that time, we see blockchain as underlying technology really booming, and especially from some of the security background experts, they are really building up those platforms. And we see as a VC, we always think about as a technology how this new tech can solve the real world problems. At that time, actually, we have a group of people, those technologists, they are really passionate about blockchain. And we always discuss on the application, what it can do to change the world, right? And Lauren definitely one of the experts. So back that time, we already start to think about the ideas, and then just like I'm also investing in the IoT. And we discuss, IoT is booming also. And we clearly see this is the future for IoT to lead the way for how to do the machine economy. But at that time we see the infrastructure is lacking of the critical foundation layer, and we see blockchain as technology really a good fit. So we started to want to build up this platform back in, I think, February 2017. And actually, we do a lot of the research and the prototype before we really write the white paper. So the white paper actually takes much longer. I think take around 3-4 months.
Yeah, 4 months.
Yeah, 4 months, and then just like we have the first version, and we have forming the founding team. And we have more, very talented, technologists that they decided to join us. And right now we have around, 20, technologists, engineers, in the team. And of course, we also include a lot of the talented people from marketing, like Larry, and from community, Laurie, and from, a lot of different, domains.
Yeah. Thank you for the introductions. And you mentioned something that was kind of interesting. A lot of our viewers and at least our Telegram community always ask us how we develop it so fast, and they think that our project started in February of this year, but there was almost a year before planning and development. So leading up until now we're at our third code release. We just launched testnet beta epoch, which includes smart contracts and wallet functionality. Maybe from your guys' own words, what does epoch mean to you, and why is it kind of a big deal? Maybe walk through some of the features as well.
Sure. So definitely, like, this release is a very big deal. So the name epoch is basically from the permutation of a computer scientist. I think his name is Robert Pike. He was one of the co-inventor of this Go language. Basically, we're using to build up blockchain, and also lots of other projects that also use Golang. So we like his work on the Golang, and that's why we pick his name and promote it around to have this word epoch as like a code name for this beta release, which basically means like we achieve another big milestone, right? This one is really huge compared to the previous two, because some important features, including like a smart contract, like a wallet, explorer, and also more scalable deployment of the blockchain nodes. So we want to make this release basically to make our blockchain more tangible and useful for our users. Like they can just poke around, even for non-tech users. Like they can go to websites, they can click something, create their wallet, transfer tokens, poke around the smart contract, maybe deploy something, maybe maybe like have a game, I think we have a Roblox game, right? Maybe it's not announced yet. Sorry about like the
Easter egg,
yeah. So we want basically make this entire tangible to the users, so they can feel it, right? They can feel like the progress the team is making. So that's why we are so focused on the usability and tangibility for this release. Yeah, and in terms of the smart contract, actually there are lots of choice for smart contract, and virtual machine underline that. The reason we choose to go with EVM, which is like Ethereum's virtual machine, and Solidity, because we're thinking this Solidity plus EVM has maybe a largest group of users already. So there will be like a lower cost for educated users to use it. So that's why we just say, okay, let's go and just integrate EVM and Solidity and the surrounding two chains into our system so people can just use it.
Mhm.
Yeah, down the road we will have like a more smart contract virtual machine, even like our in-house. Basically, we have like an in-house project who's basically designing and implementing like a lightweight version of a virtual machine. Yeah, probably shouldn't say too much about that, but yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, that's great. I see a lot of questions that we got in the applications around the status of the IoTeX smart contracts. So I think we covered it at a high level, and we can dig deeper, maybe in some of the following questions. But the next question, I think we'll start with some technical questions first. Next question is, how can IoTeX be able to support and connect to various devices with different standards? Given that IoTex's blockchain is one of the only very few that can connect to lightweight IoT devices, how do we envision that development going?
Sure, that's a good question. So in the IoT world, there are so many different protocols like a ZigBee, Z-Wave, right? Even like a NB-IoT, LoRa, lots of protocols at the connection layer. So that's different from like the IoTeX protocol, which is built on top of this connection layer.
Mhm.
So like the world we're imagining is underlying. So basically, IoTeX can be run on any type of transport, no matter it's like a Wi-Fi, 4G, 5G, or maybe NB-IoT, ZigBee, whatever. So they're just a transport. They just provide connectivity. But IoTeX basically enable IoT and blockchain at an even higher level. So they will run on top of these protocols. So for now, like our protocol design is so agnostic to the underlying transport. For now, that's probably another reason we use Golang, because Golang is so portable. It basically has different distributions, even like an embedded OS. Yeah, so that's the point. So what's the second part of the question?
Oh, I think you covered it.
Okay,
it's mostly
that's
around accommodating different types of standards, both from hardware perspective, connectivity perspective. So that's great.
Yeah, I think down the road there are several steps we want to take to basically have IoT devices to adopt IoTeX technology even further. That could be like embedded like the IoTeX product stack into open source IoT operating systems. I think that would be like a low-hanging fruit for lots of us, and that's how easy to go. And the second step could be integrate the IoTeX protocol stack even into chips. Like we are having conversation with these chip manufacturers, but so far it's still like a very beginning of this project. So I think it wouldn't happen this year, apparently. Yeah, so that's basically two approach we're taking down the road.
Great,
Yeah.
Great. Maybe jumping to a general question and a partnerships question. So I see here a question around how do we get started and what we envision for the next 5 years and 10 years. So in the general project perspective, where do you guys see the project developing maybe 2 years from now? And maybe let's start with 1 year from now when the mainnet the stable mainnet launches, and going forward, how do you see the project developing?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is always this is to bring us to the real world. So actually, just like for 1 year in our vision, we really will have a stable mainnet, which is launched. And at the same time, we even just like we're preparing for the mainnet launch, we're already in talk with a lot of the partners, right? So right now it's not for the very large scale, partnership integration, but we are focusing on the POC. So-called, just like we are working on those, certain user cases, and those user cases can bring the possibility to the mainnet. So to demonstrate to the developer community what kind of application really can be running on top of blockchain and the IoTeX, right? So in 1 year, we can in our vision we will see for the entire developer community. There is a stable IoT blockchain, which is IoTeX, will be running. And at the same time, there will be several or a couple of the POCs or the applications will be running on top of that, which will be the solid subchain will be running.
Yeah. So this month we actually kicked off our partnerships program, and we announced 7 partners to date. 4 of them are development partners who will build on top of IoTeX, and 3 of them are ecosystem partners, which will kind of bring new capabilities to the project. For the development partners, you mentioned something around POCs. Can you describe, some of the POCs that we have planned?
Yeah, so
proof of concepts, POCs.
Yeah. So maybe I can share a little bit about how we talking about the partnership. So maybe a little bit from different from the other project because we see for the IoT project it's more require more just a resources and expertise domain knowledge, right? So actually back I think half a year ago we started to talking to a lot of the partners, potential partners, and and up to now we have over I think 100 partners we are in talking, right? So surprisingly just like from beginning we think only those small medium sized projects they will be really interest, but actually just like we have a lot of inbound requests from very large companies, right? So this make us feel we really see there is a huge potential or there's a huge interest from the company side. They want to use the blockchain to solve their real world problems, right? So maybe just like but a lot of them we are still just under the NDA or just like under the POC mode. We will share with our community later once we can. But I can elaborate a little bit about our current already announced partnership. For example, we just like have the collaborations with the GSE network, right? So it's a very interesting partnership. So they are already working for a very established shared bicycle business and with OFO, right? So a formal partnership with OFO. As you may know, OFO is a very big already the leading brand for the sharing bicycle and already deployed in very many countries, including the Asia and also Southeast Asia and Europe and America. China is the biggest one.
Definitely.
So they bring up actually the problem, say, hey, actually we already see there is a huge application for sharing bicycle to use blockchain, right, to attest it the data, and at the same time they really want the privacy, but they cannot really they're choosing one layer which they can run in their application, the app on top of that, and they have searched for all those different type of the public chain, right? But they cannot really find one single infrastructure which can be integrated with their smart lock, which is the device, and at the same time have those privacy features. That's why just like we back in I think 2 months ago we started talking about the possibilities, and then getting to more tangible just like goals we want to achieve,
right?
And then sign this partnership, and we will work on step by step. We will work on the POC first, and to test how the blockchain can be running on top of their smart lock, and then to look for the solutions for the large scale deployment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think just to summarize some things that Jing mentioned, we kind of take the partnerships one step at a time. Don't really announce partnerships for the sake of announcing partnerships. We're really seeking to make real progress. And I think a big theme around some of these initial proof of concepts is simply connecting very lightweight devices, whether it's a wearable or a smart lock, to the blockchain. Maybe Ralin, you can talk about why that's so difficult and why that's kind of unique to our project.
Sure. I think the uniqueness of these connections are basically coming from like the resource limitations on these devices, right? Like for example, like smart lock you mentioned, they are basically very weak, like among microcontroller-based devices. They don't have a CPU, right? They have basically a microcontroller, and they may not even have an operating system. So it will be super challenging for us to build like the blockchain stack onto the microcontrollers. But fortunately, like we're making progress on this project. So hopefully, you guys will see like the POC or demo coming to us very soon. Yeah.
Great. So we're going to go into one more question from the applications, and we'll start running down the questions in the chat. And this one is kind of a higher level question. word for word, it says there's a Hong Kong company called IoTW. Aren't they doing the same thing as IoTeX? And I think, even like maybe 3-4 months ago, this intersection of blockchain and IoT was still kind of in its infancy. A lot of doubters that this would be a good use case for blockchain, but there's a lot of attention, a lot of investment going into this intersection now. How would you describe the difference between IoTeX and some of the other projects that start with IoT? IoTW, IoTA.
Yeah, eventually they have from IoTA all the way to IoT. Right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I think there do have lots of projects doing this IoT plus blockchain, but each one is basically doing this in a very different way. Right? For example, IOTA, they mostly focus on this micro payment, which is basically like one sector in the IoT plus blockchain space. Like for us, we are mostly focused on this infrastructure, privacy, scalability, and real use of the applications. So each one is so different. I'm not so sure about this IoTW. I never heard about it. Yeah. So no comments on that.
Yeah. From my perspective, actually, I think that's good, right? So actually, just like when we see this in the industry, we will see it's still very early stage. So we encourage more developers, more players get into this space because we have so many problems we need to solve. We really want more technologists. They are determined to solving the problem and help our industry to create really solid foundations, right? And IoT and blockchain definitely see this is a huge huge potential areas. We see more and more players are coming. At the same time, we will see just like different people, a different team, they have very different vision and also very different directions, right? So I would say a lot of the players we can collaborate with them because we are building up the fundamental layer. So we are very open and really collaborative. Want to just include a lot of the blockchain developers, even they are doing the public chain. They can building their public chain on top of us, right? So they can provide part of the resources or service to the entire IoT community.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's good.
Yeah, I think it's a very comprehensive solution where other people are or other projects are focusing on point solutions that address just one of the many layers that are required to make this work. Same thing for us too.
So adding 2 cents. Basically, you can think like a search, right?
Yeah.
Like Google. Even before Google, like there are tons of companies doing this search from different ways. Like at Google is any company who figure out both technology and base model for this search business, so it becomes a successful player in this field. So I guess the same rule applies to this IoT plus blockchain world. It's kind of same, like who first figure out like the technology plus the business model, who will win this war. So,
looking forward to seeing more players in the industry, but I think very proud of the progress we've made so far. So that's the last of the application questions. So we're going to jump to some questions that we see in the chat. So any questions you guys have, feel free to type them in and we'll run down them one at a time. So the very first question is, why did the team decide to delay the August token distribution until November? And it's actually not just delayed until November, but it was a 6-month delay. Maybe Jing, talk us through which buckets of the tokens were delayed and for what reason.
Yeah, actually, just like it takes quite a long time for us to really go to these directions, and we are at the early stage project. We are learning, and when we are really doing the things right. So from very beginning, our community will understand this is a very long-term project, and also we are creating this infrastructure. The usage of the token, the IoTeX token, should be the utility token. Right. So, but it really takes time. Takes more than 1 year for us to develop the ecosystem, the mainnet, and then just like our token will be really converted to the native token and can be used in our network. So this is the topic we constantly discussing and talking. Right. So at this moment, to be honest, we don't really have any usage of the current ERC20 token, and instead they can, of course, they can trade it in the exchanges, but there's not other usage. So to bring all those considerations, we discuss with our the private investors and also our team and also the advisors, and to see what will be the best structures for the tokens, and what's the best just like the token release schedules, right? So we already have 25% of the private tokens be released, but just like there are still just like a longer half a year for us to really get to a stage and come to a decision, and we see it will be better for both our community and for the long-term interest for all all the stakeholders in this community. Say we want to delay the ERC20 token release, and then push forward our mainnet launching, and eventually the second launch will be just like in line with the timeline of our mainnet launch.
Right.
So actually it takes a lot of effort. It's not easy decision because definitely it will affect a lot of the interest from different parties, right? But we are very lucky to and fortunate to have a very supportive investors, right? So they are really see the long-term value of our project and they want to support us, and this decision. That's why finally we come to this decision.
Yeah, and actually the decision was very well received from our community. So not only was it a long-term affirmation from the investors and the team, but also from our community. So we thank you for sticking by us. And so the next question is, where can I get one of these great goodies?
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Where? I even don't know.
I think very soon. I think we'll start to.
I think Larry prepare for something, right? For the community.
Definitely. I think very soon we're going to make some more uses of the IoTeX token. So stay tuned for more ways to get some good IoTeX swag.
Okay.
But I think
we have more of those gadgets or those souvenirs which have the IoTeX logos, and which will very soon our community will have the chance to get it.
Yeah. And I don't even have this phone.
It's limited edition.
It's limited edition, definitely. And I think these guys alluded to it a little earlier, but over the next month or so, in addition to releasing the smart contract and wallet functionality, we're going to try to gamify and give you opportunities to earn some prizes and earn some tokens through various community reward programs. So stay tuned as to see how you can rock the hoodie that Rallen's wearing today.
We will have better design, right? More design, and also we will encourage our community to design, the gifts for our tax.
Definitely more coming soon. And the next question is around something about the game. So nothing we can disclose right now, but more campaigns will be coming in the future. The next one is another technical question. So it's the viewer wants to know, how are the nodes currently set up for the testnet? And if there's a role decodes consensus working, what's the pool of candidates and delegates that are running on the testnet currently?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So we're fortunate to have like a Yutong from Uber to be on board on us, I think from last month. He's very experienced in large-scale system. So we set up like a Kubernetes-based like a deployment for us. So Kubernetes is like you can say like a Docker is a container, right? So each like a IoTeX node is running one container, and we will have like many containers. And Kubernetes is really like the orchestra for all these containers. So with Kubernetes, we can basically bring up and bring down the container when needed. And also, if like one container goes unhealthy, we can just kill it and maybe restart it. So we now have this whole system like a fully implemented and working. Like with like one button click, we can like spin up maybe 100, 200 Docker instances pretty fast. So for the testnet, which we expose to the external world, we have like a 21 nodes running, and 7 of them are basically doing the BP job. And we have another pipeline we call like a staging. We have like more nodes and more TPS, where we actually have 101 nodes, and 21 out of 101 are doing the BP stuff. And this one also we put more TPS on top of this like a staging environment, which now is 200 something, 300-ish. But this one is not stabilized yet. So that's why we just keep it like running the staging environment while we trying to maybe do some performance tuning and fix bugs. And once this is maturized, we will want to push this code, like a new code, to this pipeline, production pipeline, which is exposed to the external node.
So incrementally adding more
Incrementally.
TPS and nodes to really performance test, as you mentioned.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so basically like doing a larger scale and with higher TPS is extremely challenging. But we're doing these two things together. Yeah.
So actually a similar question from Simone. Hi, Simone. Is if we can run our own node and create our own wallet, how do we configure it? For example, make it discover other existing nodes.
I don't quite know that yet because there are our code has been like vastly iterated recently. I would like to ask the tech team basically to update their README, which will have like a more detailed description about how to set up a node. Yeah, for now I don't have the answer in my mind. Okay.
So we'll send up an update in the README file in the GitHub later on to walk through that functionality. The next question is, how exactly should a programmer or even a team of programmers who want to offer their skills to the IoTeX project, how do they get involved?
Oh, that's a really good question. I appreciate you asking this question. So yeah, we are like hire like a crazy, and we also would like to have like technical contributors from our community. So there are a couple of ways, right? So it really depends on what you like and what your skills are. So if you are pretty familiar with this open source development, you can directly contribute to our GitHub, like to our repo on GitHub, which is open source, and we have like a dedicated team members who will interact with this external contributors to like comment on their code, maybe a few iterations of code review, and eventually merge their code into the code base. So that's one. And second, if you have like a more, I'm not sure, specific skills, for example, you know how to build like IoT product, if you know like a cryptography pretty well in a very deep, probably you want to talk with us directly, right? So we can work out a way, maybe a very creative way, so we can work together, maybe on very specific but impact for products or projects. Yeah, and also your effort will be appreciated.
Definitely. And for anyone that does want to contribute to the project, feel free to reach out to us, hello@iotex.io. You can email us, or we actually have a form on our partnerships website that you can fill out and apply to be a strategic partner of IoTeX. And whether you're building on top of us or adding new capabilities or just spreading the word, we would definitely love your help. Any other thoughts on kind of the other side, the non-technical side, and how people can contribute?
Yeah. So just adding 2 cents on Lawrence's thoughts. Just like we are building up the open source protocol, and because from past actually we see the huge value of the open source platform which can bring to the society, right? So previously a lot of the tech, if this is a central party or big company, they own the IP, and then the other small medium company, either they need to pay very high price to use it, or just like it's kind of a huge barrier for them to really get into innovation world. That's why we see, just like we are the huge fan, and we are building up the open source platform. So the reason or the motivation will be we want to democratic the technology side, and we want to encourage more small medium size companies, developers. They will have the similar or even better infrastructures they can building on top of that. So we definitely, and at the same time, it really requires the joint efforts from both the tech team and also the non-tech team. At this moment, we are in building mode. So the tech development will be the core, right? So at the same time, we really just like encourage our community. They can be, if they are not technical experts, they can still contribute to our community. They can be the ambassador, the developer ambassador, or they can be the community ambassador in their region, and they can help us to promote our, just like our philosophy, our mission, vision, and also they can help, just like the promoters or the evangelists to, let more people understand what we are doing. Yeah, fortunately, we already have a group of very passionate, KOLs, ambassadors, and we encourage more, people to join our community. Yeah.
Definitely. So the next question is jumping back to the issue of security and privacy on the blockchain. So there's many security problems in the current IoT world. What do you think about using this to promote IoTeX, and maybe walk through what the issue actually is with IoT security?
Yeah, I can talk about one specific issue where we're thinking about and working on, which is like identity management of the devices. So for now, for like a big players, they will have their cloud as a backend, and they will like bury something into the IoT devices, and they have like sort of identity management. But this is basically tied to their cloud, right? For like small players, they don't usually have a way to do this device management. So it's basically done in a very ugly way, I would say. So we're thinking about we should have like a blockchain as a backend for all the devices, no matter cloud or not cloud, from big players or not, as the backend for identity management. And every device should be issued like a token, not a token, like a certificate or something, like a running inside of the device, so they can interact with each other and also trust each other's identity. So that's a very specific security issue we're looking into. And there, for IoT, there are definitely other security issues, but I would think like they are more like far reach, and also like they probably go out of the space of the blockchain. For example, people are talking about IoT things are mostly vulnerable to attacks, like people can just like penetrate into the device and steal something. I think for that part, maybe it's go out of the scope of blockchain. So yeah, for now, identity management is our is a project it's going on.
Great. So the next question is around the wallet functionality. So someone has said they've been playing around with the wallet, and regarding the vote for delegate function, how often will voting take place, and what will the votes constitute? And I guess maybe we can talk about in this current version of the testnet, what this kind of simulates, and in the version of the mainnet, maybe walk through the voting with role posts and things like that.
So the purpose for voting is basically to give your support to maybe one of the BP candidates. If you think he or she is great, right, doing this job, so you will definitely vote for him or her, and also you can unvote if he or she is not doing a good job. So for this functionality right now we are having is basically like a demonstration of this functionality, like vote and unvote. We will have a like more concrete design of this, how we do this election of the BP node before the mainnet launch. So there we will maybe specify like how often we will do the vote and how much we will do to do the vote. Yeah, basically more details will come in next year, Q1.
Yeah, so I think any other questions regarding the wallet functionality? This is something we're really trying to get feedback on. It's just the initial version 1.0 of the smart contracts in the wallet. So if you come across any bugs or fixes that need fixing, or anything that just can be improved, definitely shoot us a note, and we'll try to build it into further iterations.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the next one is around exchanges, where we've heard a lot of comments from the community around, it's been maybe 2 months or so since we got listed on Binance. What's the reason for kind of the delay in adding new exchanges, and will it happen before the end of 2018?
Okay, that's also a good question. I think most of the community members they will really care. We will say for the trading part or the exchange part is really not really under control of the team, right? So but our vision will be, we want to make IoTeX available for everybody in every countries. So this is our mission, but this will take time, and it's a longer term things, right? So right now, I would say just like more and more exchanges, they are approaching us, and they're really interested in to get IoTeX to be available in their region, right? So we are just like in talk with them, and then the timelines, it's confirmed, or just like if we can announce it, or the exchange they will announce it, and then we will just like share with our community as soon as possible. Yeah, just stay tuned.
Definitely.
Yeah. Also maybe adding a little bit. I also feel like the exchanges, first, like there are too many, right? Second, like the exchanges, they're maybe having a backfire, maybe they're like a dogfighting with each other. So it's not clear to us like because like there are tons of exchange approach to us every day saying, do you want to list your token here? If you pay a little bit fee, you can list it here. We usually don't just give shit.
Yeah.
So we want really work with like a reputable exchange down the road. So that's why we're kind of like a watch and see like which are the most like influential ones in each of the region. And we are basically just give. Right.
Yeah. So actually, so there are several criteria for us to choose the exchanges, right? So we will see if they have a large community, and if this community is really supportive and also have the good quality. Is one thing. Another thing will be just if they have a specific region penetration. Right. So, for example, if just as that, there are some specific, exchanges. They are focusing on, for example, one country, which is, for example, India, for example, Southeast Asia. All those, country which can, bring us to this country. At the same time, it will also align with our, community expansion. We are, building up our community worldwide, right? But it also just like step by step. So it more makes sense for us to see already build up a good insights of the community of fans supporters there, and then got the awareness there. So and then just we want to these countries really get IoTeX and can use it in our network. So that's very important.
Yeah, so quality over quantity and a more strategic approach. And I think it's safe to say, by the end of 2018, there will be more exchanges, but be patient with us while we work out the details. The next question is around the size of the team. How big is the team at the moment, and how do you envision it to grow in the future?
Yeah, we have like 14 full-time employees right now, and plus some contractor, intern, part-timers. We have like a 24-ish people globally. Like I mentioned, we are still like hire like a crazy. We're trying to expand team even more, but at the same time, we want to be picky on the people we onboard to the team, because especially on the engineer side, like Jing can talk more about like on the original side, but on the eng side, we are basically very picky. Like we want this talent that join us have a very good tracking history, and also we want this guy can really contribute to the project, right? We don't want like make the company too fat and moving too slow. We want to make it lean but moving fast. So that's why we're picking up this.
So maybe I can share some of our unique hiring process and also how we grow our team. So actually many of our full-time engineer team, before they join us full-time, they already been working with us for a very long time. Just like those people, they are very talented, but at the same time, just like they are passionate about technology stuff. So they want to building things, and they, just like before even joining, they already contribute to our, blockchain, to our chain inside, right? So that's, some talents we want to attract. So we are just like see for a good fit for the IoTeX team will be they must be just like internally have the passion to really build new things, innovative things, because we are building things it doesn't exist now, right? So it really needs those very different thinking, and they will thrive in a very fast pace and in a just like fast growing environment. Right. So this is the criteria. At the same time, we will see, right now our core team are based in US, but actually we are building up a distributed team. Very soon we will have set up our office in Asia, China, in Korea, Canada, and Singapore. So then just like very soon we will have a very distributed team, and at the same time we are working on how to build up a really distributed autonomous organization by ourselves. So that's also another challenge for us, because we see just in future if we are really building up this distributed system, right? So we need to really bring or include a lot of the talent which is all around the world. But don't really need to be sitting in the same office.
Right. Exactly. So similar to the approach for partnerships and everything like that, it's more quality over quantity and thinking about the long term. But plans are in place to build out the team. This is an interesting question. It's around what will it take to prevent IoTeX project to not close down? Like, what's the worst case scenario? They mentioned the potential of a Bitcoin collapse or, an even worse crypto winter. What would it take for that to happen, or can it happen?
So I want to separate apart like a cryptocurrency side and the blockchain side, right? For the cryptocurrency side, basically we have no control of their market. Like the cryptocurrency market can just goes down maybe tomorrow. We really have no control over that. But on the technical side, we definitely have control. We have like a full control of this side. Where basically want to really push for this blockchain plus IoT idea down the road. No matter if this side goes bad or good, right? So we actually envision there will be a winter. Probably will be a winter. Maybe I don't know 12 months long winter on this side. But no matter what, we are like keep focused on this part. We really want to push for like a real product for this IoT and blockchain.
Right. Yeah. And I've heard in a lot of discussions and podcasts and things like that, people are saying, in the worst of the crypto winters, that's when teams get the work, most of the work done. So I think that's definitely true for our project as well.
And also, it's an interesting thing. Actually, it's from the very beginning, even just like from the highest point of the crypto market. I think the entire team have a very realistic, estimation. We see, this is not really, a realistic, point, so many money and get into, so early stage stuff. So we already estimate, the market will cool down, and we dedicated for, to go through those, up and downs, and also prepared for this winter. And we will see actually this will be a great opportunity for the really committed technical team for us to focus on building up the product. At the same time, the interesting part will be because I constantly just like talking to the industry. So those real players, or we'll say those real industry leaders, they are hugely invested in this area. So for them, their motivation is not about the crypto side, the cryptocurrency side, but more for the technology side. So they are really dedicated to investing more resources and to bring this technology to the next level, see how this technology can solve their problems or the business problems. So that's the new thing will happen. It still takes a while, but we will see. It's just like the internet. Things how it evolved. So it takes a longer time, but we will see when we can go through. There is a huge future there.
Yeah. That's a very good realistic perspective of the market, right? This next one is an interesting one and talks about more of the ecosystem. What are some other solid projects or people that are enabling the ecosystem in a positive way, like pushing the entire blockchain ecosystem?
You mean within IoTeX or?
No, just in the
entire
ecosystem. Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I want to give this thought. I think there are some very. So let's take a step back. So basically, for now, like still like layer 1 and layer 2, solution, they are not solid on the technical side. There are lots of problems to solve: scalability, privacy, security, and maybe functionality, right? So I think after these 2 layers have been built in a very solid way, we will have maybe more time and focus on the application side and ecosystem side. And for now, it's still too early. Like we saw some efforts, right? Like people are working with blockchain companies. Blockchain companies are working with like a traditional industry to make it happen. But for now, it's still too early. I would like give it maybe 1 or 2 years to build these 2 base layers. Once they're done, like can just move forward.
Yeah, I would say right now, just like it's in the stage, people are, just like in, different teams, they are focusing on different directions, right? So they try to say, hey, how about this way? How about this way? They try the different ways to see if it will really work. And for us, it's the same. For us, our just like internal motivation will be, we want to build, a blockchain which really work for IoT work, which that doesn't exist now, right? And at the same time, just like, from just like in 1 or 2 years, we will see, some of them maybe they prove they cannot work, but some of their assets they created will be eventually beneficial to the entire industry.
Mhm.
And then for the other blockchain, maybe they can integrate with some of the features they already developed. So I think that's also the beauty of the open source industry, right? So and so it's kind of just like right now we choose different ways, and then it will eventually merge into maybe a couple of the big platforms, and each of them they will be working on a huge verticals. This vertical will be really good fit for their platform. Yeah. And for IoTeX, we are really looking at the IoT, because we see in future, right, the trusted machine economy will be there, and we want to be the underlying infrastructure, and this will be a critical layer. Right. Yeah.
It's important to know your place in the industry.
Yeah.
So many different layers around, infrastructure, connectivity, applications, messaging, all these things. So, that's a great answer. So we have about 10 minutes left. So we're gonna do these next questions in more of like a rapid fire style. So just to try to get through the remaining questions. So the first one is, are you developing new hardware right now?
Not right now, but like we are working with like this GSC, like you mentioned, under smart block. That's probably considered as a hardware project.
Yeah. The next one is, some projects that are developing their own blockchains host different kind of events like hackathons. Does IoTeX plan to hold its own hackathon in the future, and what will the specific focus of the hackathon be?
Okay, so yes, actually we already participated in several, or co-hosting several hackathons. One of them we actually partner with the Hacks, which is one of our partners, and we will have more in different regions. But just like we have a little bit different thoughts on the hackathon. We will see just like it's unnecessary. Just like say we need to only focusing on the physical hackathon one, but actually we will constantly involve our developers. We will make our developer community program more open and constantly bring those new ideas, and we will provide those resources and work together to come out with new features or new app, which makes sense for IoT.
This next one is less of a question and more of a shout out. Hi Art. Art just wanted to let you know that he printed the IoTeX logo, put it on his car, is accepting IoTex's payment for his business, and gets all of his friends interested in the project. So thank you, Art.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This next one is also a shout out to CJP TRA. So how's it going? Thank you for your support as well. The next question is, how often will the voting process for candidates take?
Like a voting itself will just take like 1 or 2 seconds to be finalized. That's pretty fast. So in terms of like how often you can vote, so we're thinking something like each epoch, which will have maybe 100 or even like more blocks inside, will be like also like a period of voting. So then in that case, like the delegates will be like moving up and down in a more dynamic way. That's the initial design.
So in the testnet, the concept of an epoch is just, I guess, every one of the 7 delegates gets a chance to produce a block.
No, I think like for the testnet, one epoch is 100 rounds, which means like 100 blocks.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's another hardware question around, how do you plan to demonstrate IoTeX working in a real life hardware situation? Maybe we can talk a little bit about the partnership with Lineable and how we plan to integrate their wearables onto our blockchain. So maybe I can just answer that one.
I'm sure so.
Larry is the one really make it happen, and constantly engage with Lineable. We will have the weekly call to really sync up the updates and see how we just like step by step to bring their the wearables into the blockchain empowered wearables into the reality.
Definitely, yeah. And as we alluded to earlier, it's a step-by-step process, starting with the proof of concept, which is first connecting the device and making it compiling a lightweight client onto these devices so they can be supported by the blockchain. And Lineable is a company that's been around for maybe 5 years now. They have production agreements of over 2 million units with telecoms around the world. So starting slow, but ultimately expanding, and one day all of their products will be on the blockchain. So we're very excited.
Yeah, and there's some more exciting news we want to share with the community. Actually, just like we see more and more wearable companies they are approaching us. So once we can demo to the community how blockchain can work for the wearables, so then we will have more. We will open to more companies in different regions or different countries. Actually, they will working on their user cases. Either this is for kids, for senior people, for children, or this is for other for the young people. And each devices they have their own specific target group, but they can all use blockchain to enhance their features or unlock some new features which will never happen in this central world.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point around why it's so important to focus on developing these proof of concepts, because a wearable is not something that's specific to Korea, where Linear is based, right? It's almost like a universal thing. So by figuring out this problem, we can retrofit the problem and configure it to other regions and other use cases as well. The next one is around partnerships with government bodies or other industries for greater expansion. Any thoughts around that kind of thing?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. We do already in talk with many of the bigger corporations, including government level organizations and also those Fortune 500 companies, right? So actually, their interest level, their just like interest will be different, right? So they will be really focused on how this tech can in large scale they can solve the problems, right? And also just like we see a lot of the government actually they already see the potential of the blockchain as a technology which can really solve the problem. For example, how they can just like for example the privacy part, and also the authentication and the verification of the real data, right? So all those things can really make it happen if the blockchain can make it. We can make the blockchain really reliable, and at the same time can with security and functions. And for them, their major concerns right now the infrastructure level is still too fragile. And also just like it's not really ready for the large scale applications, right? The second part will be for them they really consider how we can combine the blockchain with the traditional business model. And for this part we also have some thoughts. We don't think blockchain will really just like disrupt everything just like already exist. So we will more think just like blockchain is an enabling technology, which will just like also have a good fit into the real already established business world. But the different things is blockchain can bring those autonomous trust layer, which right now doesn't exist in the real business world, and then make the working mechanism more efficient. So that's also something the large corporations, the government.
Definitely. Yeah. And we have 2 minutes left. Sorry we couldn't get to all of your questions, but we actually have an AMA right after this, so we'll be sure to add those to the queue. But the last question is just around the plan for testnet stable. We can talk about what we're going to be up to for the next few months as we drive towards mainnet release.
Sure. I think in the next 2 months, there are like one big thing we have to figure out is like a subchain provisioning and management. That will probably take us maybe 2 months to basically go through the design and POC and real implementation. And but actually at the October release, we aim to have this feature. It's at least as like a preview feature for most of us. And then we will spend like 4 months really like work on the security, performance, and the stableness of this blockchain. Because once it's put in the production use, like people will have like a real tokens running on top of that, right? We don't want to make it like people lose token or something hack, bad thing happens. So we have to spend like 4 months to basically clean up the code, do lots of maybe bug bounties, and also fix like performance issues, right? Before we push it to the real world. So that's basically the plan until next February. Yeah, and also in between, like months from now to February, I guess like on the business side, we'll be also making some progress.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Great. So want to thank Jing and Rowland so much for taking time out of their busy schedules to, and of course, for participating in the partnership campaign. And hope you guys enjoyed the session. And we'll definitely be doing more of these. So stay tuned.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good talk to you guys.